Steinbeck's epic novel deals with generations of families in California, spanning several decades. Cal Trask is one of many Trasks within the book, but as film adaptations tend to do, he became central to the screenplay, written by Paul Osborne as his story was decided to be the most compelling, and so Osborne made the decision to focus on it. Elia Kazan, the man picked to bring Osborne's work to life, sought out Dean, believing he could pull off the complexities of Cal's character, a belief which proved correct. However, Kazan couldn't have foreseen the difficulties Jimmy himself would bring to set. Working alongside Raymond Massey, a widely revered Canadian actor who played Cal's father Adam Dean, soon proved to be a handful, prone to improv, ignoring direction, and mumbling. Jimmy's method of acting irritated Massey, who had been classically trained at Oxford University and who found improvising, when not called for, greatly distasteful and distracting. Massey tried appealing to Elia Kazan to speak with Dean, to make him see reason, but Kazan, noting the tension between the two as necessary for the portrayal of father and son who in the film were at odds with each other, instead focused on intensifying these ill feelings, encouraging Jimmy to improvise and go off script to irk Massey and draw out real frustration. It worked, bringing to life the rocky relationship between Cal and Adam Trask, but it also permanently soured Massey's impression of Jimmy, whom he never regarded as a serious artist. One of the most memorable scenes in the film is when Cal, having earned $100 from speculating beans, tries handing it to Adam. He rejects it coldly, and Cal, so the script said, was supposed to run away, heartbroken at this rejection. Instead, Jimmy grabbed hold of Massey suddenly, clutching him in an anguished hug while sobbing. This move took Massey completely off guard, and all he could do was say Cal. Cal repeatedly. It landed perfectly with Kazan and later audiences, showcasing Jimmy's instinctive storytelling abilities and his emotional depth. Once the filming wrapped and screenings were held, other producers were able to see the scope of Dean's ability, and many flocked to hire him for their own projects, with the next big role being that of Jim Stark in the film Rebel Without, a cause directed by Nicholas Ray and written by Stuart Stern. The film, about teenage angst and rebellion, was based on the nonfiction book of the same name by Robert Lynn, an American psychologist who studied a young criminal he nicknamed Harold, and based his work on his rehabilitation. Beyond basic similarities in theme, the film was not based on the book in any meaningful sense. In this picture, Dean worked alongside Natalie Wood and Sal Mineo, all three forming friendships on set. Wood, having seen Jimmy's portrayal of Cal prior to working with him, had developed a crush on him and greatly admired his passion and commitment to acting and storytelling as a whole. While she liked him, Jimmy, seeing Italian actress Angeli at the time, viewed Natalie simply as a friend and a little kid. Despite this, their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, and the two carried the film. Like with East of Eden, Jimmy improvised on the set of Rebel, and like with Kazan, he found support for this in Nicholas Ray, the two men hitting it off. Ray, who also experienced a fatherless childhood, connected with Dean on a deep emotional level, understanding him better than others did. He knew Jimmy thrived on improv, so allowed him the freedom to think up lines, move as he wished during filming, and generally had little input on his technique. The result was that Rebel turned out to be a masterpiece. It captured how teenagers in the 1940s and 50s felt, their anger, their confusion regarding their transition into adulthood and their place in the world, and at the center of it all was Jimmy's role as Jim Stark, the rebel who rose up against authority and who, very much like Jimmy, in real life struggled with who he was and how much his unresolved trauma affected his life. Shortly after the completion of Rebel, Jimmy's romance with Angeli came to an abrupt end, due largely to Pierre's mother's influence. Enrichetta Romiti disliked Jimmy both due to his ethnicity, having no Italian blood to speak of, and worse, not being a Catholic. She hounded Pierre to leave him and marry a good Catholic man, preferably either a native-born Italian or an Italian-American. And Pierre caved. Leaving Dean, she later married Italian singer Vic Damone in November of 1954. During the wedding, Jimmy sat across on the street on his motorcycle watching the proceedings. He never went in, nor said anything. After it was finished, he ignited his engine and drove off. Neither ever got over the other. Many of Pierre's friends and Pierre herself stating that Dean was the love of her life, and she was his. With this heartbreak, Jimmy threw himself into the production of Giant, where he played the role of ranch hand Jetrink. Giant, yet another adaptation of a novel, this time one by Edna Ferber, was directed by George Stevens and written by Fred Geil. Rock Hudson and Elizabeth Taylor, both legendary actors by this time, were his Elizabeth quickly warmed up to Jimmy, the two becoming fast friends and confidants. His working relationship with Rock Hudson, however, was, much like with Massey, difficult and filled with tension. Like his older Canadian predecessor, Hudson felt Jimmy's approach to acting was unprofessional and unbecoming of an artist. There are also rumors that Hudson, who was gay, made a pass at Dean while working together, and Jimmy shot him down, leading to his dislike of him. Though whether this truly happened or is just one of many apocryphal stories of Hollywood is anyone's guess at this late date, as no evidence exists to confirm or deny it. Giant and Rebel earned Jimmy the Best Actor Academy nominations, and he received an Oscar nomination for East of Eden, but he never lived to learn of them. On September 30th, 1955, while driving his Porsche 550 Spider to the Salinas road races he hoped to enter, Jimmy was traveling on State Route 66 when he tried to beat an oncoming Ford onto Highway 41, saying to his friend and passenger Rolf Wutherick, "That guy up there's gotta stop. He'll see us." The driver didn't, and Jimmy was into to stop, smashing head-on into the Ford's passenger side. Wutherick, not wearing his seatbelt, not uncommon at the time, was thrown from the vehicle, but by some miracle survived the ordeal. Jimmy wasn't so lucky, suffering a broken neck, a crushed left foot, and multiple fractures in arms and legs, and internal bleeding. The driver, the ironically named Donald Turnipseed, sustained minor injuries. Losing consciousness almost immediately following the crash, Jimmy was pulled from the wreckage by paramedics and placed in an ambulance and taken to the Paso Robles War Memorial Hospital, where doctors pronounced him dead upon arrival. He was only 24. Jimmy's remains were taken back to Fairmount, where, on October 8th, he was laid to rest in Park Cemetery, close to the grave of his great-grandfather Cal Dean, which, in a sad twist of irony, he had visited only months before. After his death, Jimmy's reputation, strong before, skyrocketed. He became a cultural icon of youthful angst and rebellion. His visceral style of acting left an marked on his own generation and those who came after, making him into a Hollywood icon even 70 years after his tragic passing. A giant taken far too soon.